In the sultry streets of New Orleans, where the Mississippi River hums with secrets and the air is thick with the scent of magnolias and sweat, a new sound was born. It was the late 19th century, and the city was a crucible of cultures, African, European, Caribbean, and American, melded together in a vibrant, chaotic stew. From this melting pot emerged jazz, a music that would become a global language, a cry of defiance and a celebration of the human spirit. Jazz is more than notes and rhythms. It is the heartbeat of Black resilience, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of a people who turned pain into poetry and oppression into art. This is the story of jazz, its roots, its pioneers, its triumphs, and its boundless influence on the world. Jazz was born in the shadows of slavery's legacy. In the late 1800s, in the vibrant, gritty neighborhoods of New Orleans, the city was a crossroads where African rhythms, brought by enslaved people and preserved through oral traditions, mingled with European classical music, Creole melodies, and the raw energy of American folk. Black communities, despite the weight of Jim Crow laws and systemic oppression, created spaces of joy and resistance in churches, juke joints, and street parades. Here, the seeds of jazz were sown. The music drew from the syncopated rhythms of African drumming, the call and response patterns of spirituals, and the improvisational spirit of work songs sung in fields and levees. Brass bands marched through New Orleans streets during funerals, blending sorrowful dirges with upbeat second-line rhythms that turned mourning into celebration. In the red light district of Storyville, pianists in brothels played ragtime, a syncopated, upbeat precursor to jazz, while horn players in saloons wove melodies that spoke of longing and defiance. This was the sound of Black resilience. Despite the chains of segregation and the sting of racism, Black musicians crafted a music that was free, unpredictable, and alive. Jazz was a rebellion against silence, a refusal to be erased. It was the voice of a people who, in the face of unimaginable hardship, chose to sing. In the smoky saloons of New Orleans' Black neighborhoods, a cornet player named Charles "Buddy" Bolden blew notes that set souls ablaze. Born in 1877, Bolden was a charismatic bandleader whose raw, powerful sound defined the embryonic form of jazz. His band, the Bolden Band, played in dance halls and street parades, blending ragtime, blues, and spirituals into a fiery, improvisational style that made crowds roar. Bolden's horn wailed with a voice-like quality, bending notes in ways that spoke of both joy and pain. He was the first to fuse the raw energy of African rhythms with the structure of Western instruments, creating a sound that was unmistakably new. Bolden's life was as intense as his music. He played in Storyville's dives, where his horn could be heard blocks away, drawing listeners like moths to a flame. Tragically, his career was cut short by mental illness. In 1907, at age 30, he was institutionalized and never played again, dying in obscurity in 1931. No recordings of Bolden exist, but his legend lives in the memories of those who heard him. He was the spark that ignited jazz, a pioneer whose bold, brassy sound laid the groundwork for all that followed. His music was a testament to Black resilience, a refusal to be silenced, even in a world that sought to suppress. If Bolden was jazz's spark, Ferdinand "Jelly Roll" Morton was its architect. Born in 1890 in New Orleans, Morton was a Creole pianist, composer, and bandleader who claimed to have invented jazz. While the truth is more collaborative, Morton's contributions were monumental. He took the raw energy of early jazz and gave it structure, blending ragtime's syncopation with blues soul and his own flair for composition. His 1915 publication of Jelly Roll Blues was the first jazz composition ever printed, a milestone that codified the genre's sound. Morton's music was a tapestry of influences: Creole folk songs, Spanish tinges, and the polyrhythms of his African heritage. His band, the Red Hot Peppers, recorded tracks like Black Bottom Stomp and King Porter Stomp in the 1920s, showcasing tight arrangements and dazzling improvisation. Morton was a showman, decked out in sharp suits and a diamond-studded smile, but he was also a visionary who understood jazz's potential as an art form. He bridged the gap between New Orleans street music and the sophisticated sounds of urban nightclubs, giving jazz a voice that could speak to the world. Yet Morton's life reflected the struggles of Black artists in a racist society. Despite his genius, he faced discrimination and was often overlooked as jazz's popularity grew. By the time he died in 1941, he was nearly forgotten, a victim of an industry that exploited Black talent. Still, his compositions endure, a testament to the resilience of a man who refused to let his music be silenced. No figure looms larger in jazz's history than Louis Armstrong, born in 1901 in a poor New Orleans neighborhood known as the Battlefield. Raised in poverty, Armstrong found salvation in music, learning cornet in a reform school band. By his teens, he was playing in New Orleans honky-tonks, absorbing the sounds of Bolden's era and adding his own brilliance. Armstrong's trumpet was a revelation. His tone was warm and radiant, his phrasing inventive, and his improvisations breathtaking. He didn't just play jazz, he redefined it. In the 1920s, Armstrong moved to Chicago, where he joined King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band and later formed his own groups, the Hot Five and Hot Seven. His recordings, like West End Blues and Potato Head Blues, were masterpieces of melody and improvisation, showcasing his virtuosity and emotional depth. Armstrong's scat singing, vocalizing nonsense syllables in a rhythmic, instrumental style, revolutionized vocal jazz, influencing generations of singers. His charisma with a megawatt smile and infectious joy made him a global star. Armstrong's impact went beyond music. In an era of rampant racism, he navigated a hostile world with grace and defiance, using his platform to challenge stereotypes and uplift black culture. His performances in Europe and Africa spread jazz worldwide, making him an ambassador of American music. Yet he faced criticism from some who saw his stage persona as pandering to white audiences. Armstrong's resilience shone through. He knew his worth, and his music spoke truths that transcended prejudice. When he died in 1971, he left a legacy that continues to inspire, a beacon of black excellence in a world that often tried to dim it. From its New Orleans cradle, jazz spread like wildfire, carried by black musicians who migrated north during the Great Migration. By the 1920s, cities like Chicago, Kansas City, and New York became jazz hubs. The Harlem Renaissance gave rise to the swing era, with big bands led by Duke Ellington and Count Basie filling dance halls with sophisticated, infectious rhythms. Ellington, a composer of unparalleled genius, elevated jazz to an art form with works like It Don't Mean a Thing, If It Ain't Got That Swing, and Black, Brown, and Beige, which celebrated black history and resilience. In the 1940s, bebop emerged as a rebellion within jazz. Musicians like Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker played at breakneck speeds, weaving complex harmonies and daring improvisations. Bebop was black intellectualism in sound, defiant, innovative, and unapologetic. It challenged listeners and asserted jazz's place as serious art. The 1950s and 1960s saw cool jazz with Miles Davis, hard bop with Art Blakey, and free jazz Ornette Coleman, each pushing boundaries while rooted in the black experience. Jazz was never static. In the 1970s, fusion blended jazz with rock and funk, led by artists like Herbie Hancock. In the 1980s and beyond, neo-traditionalists like Wynton Marsalis revived classic styles, while innovators like Kamasi Washington fused jazz with hip-hop and electronic music. Through every era, jazz remained a testament to black resilience, a music that adapted, survived, and thrived against all odds. Jazz is inseparable from the black experience. Born in communities battered by slavery, segregation, and economic exclusion, it was a music of survival. Black musicians faced lynchings, discriminatory laws, and exploitative record deals, yet they poured their souls into their art. Jazz was a space where black voices could soar, where a trumpet could cry for justice, a piano could whisper hope, and a drum could pulse with defiance. It was a refusal to be broken, a celebration of identity in a world that sought to erase it. The resilience of black jazz musicians is seen in their ability to create beauty from pain. Spirituals sung in churches became the foundation for jazz's emotional depth. The blues, born in the cotton fields, gave jazz its soulful cry. Even as white band leaders like Benny Goodman profited from jazz's popularity, black artists like Ellington and Armstrong pushed forward, demanding recognition. Their music was a form of resistance, a declaration that black lives, black stories, and black creativity mattered. Jazz's impact on the world is immeasurable. By the 1930s, it had crossed oceans, captivating Europe, Asia, and beyond. In Paris, Django Reinhardt blended jazz with Romani music, creating gypsy jazz. In Brazil, jazz fused with samba de birth bossa nova, with Antonio Carlos Jobim's The Girl from Ipanema becoming a global anthem. In South Africa, jazz became a voice of resistance against apartheid. With artists like Hugh Masekela drawing on its spirit, jazz reshaped other genres. Its improvisational ethos influenced rock. Just think about Jimi Hendrix's solos, hip-hop, and electronic music. Its emphasis on individual expression inspired artists across disciplines, from painters like Romare Bearden to writers like Langston Hughes. Jazz festivals from Montreux to Monterey draw millions, proving its universal appeal. Politically, jazz was a force. During the Civil Rights Movement, songs like Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit exposed racial violence, while Max Roach's Freedom Now Suite demanded justice. In the Cold War, the U.S. sent jazz musicians like Dave Brubeck on goodwill tours, using their music to project freedom, ironic given the racism they faced at home. Jazz became a symbol of democracy, even as its creators fought for their own. Today, jazz remains a living art form, evolving with each generation. Artists like Esperanza Spalding and Robert Glasper push its boundaries, blending it with contemporary sounds while honoring its roots. Jazz schools and festivals thrive, and its influence permeates global culture. Yet its core remains unchanged. It is the sound of Black resilience, a music born from struggle and soaring with hope. Jazz is the story of a people who, against all odds, created a sound that changed the world. It is the wail of Buddy Bolden's cornet, the swagger of Jelly Roll Morton's piano, the radiant joy of Louis Armstrong's trumpet. It is the rhythm of a community that refused to be silenced, the melody of a spirit that could not be broken. Jazz is not just music. It is a revolution, a celebration, and a legacy that will echo for generations to come.